There are seasons in life when the sky seems permanently overcast, when joy feels like a faraway dream, and strength seems to have deserted the soul. In such hours, it is tempting to believe that we have been abandoned by all that is good, that the silence around us is a sign of neglect rather than care. Yet, perhaps silence is the very voice of growth. Perhaps the absence of comfort is not the absence of purpose. For just as iron is strengthened by fire, so too is the human heart refined by struggle. The pain we resist often carries within it the seed of our transformation. When everything seems to crumble, we must remember that what we call an ending may, in truth, be a beginning written in unfamiliar ink. The greatest lessons of life seldom come in gentle tones. They arrive clothed in difficulty, in loss, in disappointment. These moments strip us of illusions and reveal what cannot be destroyed: our courage, our faith, our inner light. We learn that resilience is not merely surviving the storm, but allowing the storm to teach us how to sail. It is in adversity that the soul discovers its true proportions. There is a peculiar wisdom in waiting. The human spirit, in its impatience, longs for quick resolution. We want answers, closure, certainty, yet growth seldom occurs in haste. The soil of the soul needs seasons of stillness, just as the earth must rest before it yields fruit again. Waiting is not wasted time. It is sacred ground where unseen roots are forming. The seed buried in darkness does not despair of the light. It trusts that the sun will return, and so must we. To endure with faith is to declare that even in silence, something beautiful is being written within us. Courage, in its truest form, is quiet. It is not loud declarations or grand gestures, but the simple act of getting up when one wishes to stay down, of taking one more step when the road has grown cold and empty. The brave are not those who feel no fear. They are those who walk forward despite it. Fear has a strange way of revealing what matters most to us. It shows us the value of what we are afraid to lose. To live courageously, then, is not to deny fear, but to make peace with it. Knowing that the heart was not made to remain untested, there is also a deeper kind of faith. The faith that persists when evidence of hope has vanished. It is easy to trust when the path is lit and the way seems certain. But faith born in darkness is the faith that changes us. It is the belief that beyond the horizon of our pain lies a goodness greater than we can imagine. We may not understand why we are made to walk through shadow, but we can be certain that no shadow lasts forever. The dawn may tarry, but it comes. And those who walk through the night with patience will see it rise with greater gratitude than those who never knew the dark. We must not underestimate the quiet heroism of ordinary endurance. The strength to face another day, to fulfill one's duties when the heart is weary, to smile kindly when one feels hollow. These are acts of greatness often unseen by the world. There is no stage, no applause, no crown for such perseverance. Yet in heaven's eyes, this is the work of giants. Greatness is not always carved in marble or written in books. Sometimes it is hidden in the steady pulse of those who refuse to surrender to despair. And when at last we emerge from our hardships, we find that we have been changed. We are not the same as we were before the fire. We carry scars, yes, but also a deeper tenderness. Our wounds become windows through which compassion enters. Pain enlarges the soul, giving it the capacity to understand others more deeply. Through brokenness, we are made whole in a new way, stronger, humbler, wiser. The storm that once seemed to destroy us becomes the very force that builds us. So when the night feels endless and the burden too heavy to bear, remember this: the story is not over. The page you are on is but a chapter, not the book. You are being shaped, not shattered. You are being prepared for a strength you do not yet see. Hold on, not with the fragile grasp of fear, but with the quiet confidence of one who knows that even winter bows before spring. The dawn is nearer than you think, and in time, you will understand that every tear watered a seed that would one day bloom into purpose. Absolutely. Let's expand the first keynote, acknowledgement of struggle, into a detailed, educational, and motivational piece of about 8 paragraphs. Life in its relentless complexity is seldom a path of uninterrupted ease or comfort. It is marked by periods of turbulence, uncertainty, and profound challenge, and to live fully is inevitably to encounter them. The first step toward resilience is not to ignore these difficulties or to pretend they do not exist, but to face them with clear-eyed acknowledgement. Struggle is an inseparable part of the human experience, and understanding this fact lays the foundation for growth, maturity, and strength. Those who attempt to avoid hardship or deny its presence may temporarily find relief, but they risk leaving themselves ill-prepared when trials arrive. Recognition of struggle does not mean dwelling in despair. Rather, it is the admission that life's terrain is uneven, that obstacles are inevitable, and that courage is measured not by the absence of adversity, but by our response to it. Acknowledging struggle begins with a shift in perspective. Many perceive difficulty as a punishment or an unjust intrusion into their lives, leading to bitterness or a sense of helplessness. Yet, when struggle is viewed through a different lens, it can be seen as a catalyst for reflection, learning, and self-discovery. Hardship has a way of revealing the contours of our character, illuminating strengths we were unaware of and weaknesses that demand attention. It is in the quiet moments of discomfort, the long nights of doubt, or the repetitive challenges that one's inner life is tested and strengthened. To face life's difficulties honestly is to recognize that suffering is not a signal of failure, but an inevitable aspect of growth. Denial of this truth often leaves a person fragile, unprepared for the inevitable storms that touch all lives. Acceptance, on the other hand, creates a foundation for resilience, enabling individuals to confront challenges with deliberate thought rather than reactive panic. Struggle also serves as a mirror reflecting our values and priorities. When circumstances are easy, it is simple to maintain composure and act in accordance with principle. But it is in adversity that true character is revealed. In acknowledging the presence of difficulty, one is invited to consider what truly matters, what one will hold on to, and what one is willing to let go of. The trials we face act as natural tests of our commitments, both to ourselves and to the principles we aspire to uphold. By understanding the inevitability of struggle, we are better able to approach life with intentionality, making choices that align with our highest values rather than surrendering to fear, frustration, or despair. In this way, the acknowledgement of struggle is not merely an intellectual recognition, but an ethical and spiritual orientation, guiding actions toward integrity and perseverance. Furthermore, acknowledging struggle allows for realistic planning and the cultivation of patience. It is easy to be lulled into the illusion that life should proceed smoothly, that efforts should always yield immediate rewards, and that setbacks indicate personal inadequacy. When one confronts the certainty of difficulty, however, one can prepare strategically, nurturing both mental and emotional resources to endure. Patience becomes not a passive waiting, but an active cultivation of strength, a deliberate willingness to sustain effort despite uncertainty and delay. This understanding fosters resilience by framing struggle not as a chaotic or meaningless interruption, but as a structured part of life that can be navigated with care, wisdom, and courage. Individuals who accept the reality of hardship are often more adaptable, capable of maintaining composure in crises, and able to transform obstacles into opportunities for development. A crucial aspect of this acknowledgement is the honesty with which one faces emotional responses. Struggle provokes fear, anger, sadness, and doubt, natural reactions that do not signify weakness. To acknowledge struggle fully is to grant oneself the permission to feel these emotions while simultaneously refusing to be dominated by them. Suppressing or ignoring emotional reality can exacerbate the pain, leading to internal conflict or delayed growth. By contrast, recognizing the discomfort and allowing it to inform thoughtful reflection cultivates emotional intelligence, equipping one with the capacity to respond to adversity with clarity rather than impulse. The human mind and spirit, when treated with honesty and care, are remarkably resilient, able to endure much more than might appear at first glance. Finally, acknowledgement of struggle fosters connection and humility. In recognizing that difficulties are universal, one becomes more empathetic toward the experiences of others, understanding that everyone encounters trials in varying forms. This awareness breaks down isolation and pride, inviting collaboration, mutual support, and shared wisdom. It is precisely in the recognition of life's challenges that human beings are drawn together, finding strength not only in their own endurance, but also in the courage and compassion of others. Struggle, once acknowledged, becomes a bridge rather than a barrier, linking hearts in shared understanding and inspiring collective resilience. In sum, the acknowledgement of struggle is the foundational act that makes resilience possible. It is an honest confrontation with the inevitabilities of life, a reflective recognition of both personal and universal challenges. By accepting the presence of difficulty, one cultivates perspective, patience, emotional intelligence, and ethical clarity. One also develops humility and empathy, realizing that suffering is a shared experience that unites rather than isolates. Far from weakening the spirit, acknowledgement strengthens it, creating the soil in which courage, virtue, and hope can grow. Those who embrace this understanding walk through life prepared, not with denial or avoidance, but with clarity, intention, and the quiet confidence that comes from knowing that struggle, when faced with honesty, can be the greatest teacher and the most faithful companion on the journey toward resilience. Absolutely! Here's an 800-word expansion of the second keynote, Inner Strength and Virtue, in paragraph forms. But true resilience is not a matter of circumstance, it is a matter of the inner life. While external events may test us, shape us, and even threaten to overwhelm us, the capacity to endure and thrive arises from the cultivation of inner strength and the deliberate practice of virtue. This inner strength is not a sudden gift or a fortuitous talent. It is nurtured through conscious effort, reflection, and the development of qualities that anchor the soul in times of turbulence. Courage, patience, integrity, and hope are not abstract ideals. They are practical tools of the spirit, instruments by which human beings navigate the uncertainties and trials that life inevitably presents. By focusing on the development of these internal resources, one becomes less vulnerable to the vicissitudes of fortune and more capable of maintaining equilibrium in the face of adversity. Inner strength begins with self-knowledge. To cultivate it, one must first understand the nature of one's own mind, heart, and impulses. This is not a pursuit of vanity, but an honest appraisal of what drives thought and action, what causes fear or hesitation, and what inspires resolve. By observing one's tendencies, strengths, and weaknesses, an individual gains the insight necessary to direct energy effectively, to anticipate moments of weakness, and to reinforce the aspects of character that support resilience. Without this self-awareness, the mind remains a field of chaos, subject to the whims of circumstance and the sway of unexamined impulses. With it, the individual becomes an architect of their own fortitude, able to deliberate, choose, and act with purpose rather than react impulsively to every difficulty. Virtue is inseparable from inner strength, for it provides the moral compass that guides action when choices are difficult. Courage, for example, is not merely the absence of fear, but the conscious choice to act rightly despite fear. Similarly, integrity is not a convenience but a steadfast adherence to principle, even when expedient compromises beckon. Patience allows the individual to endure periods of delay, frustration, or suffering without succumbing to despair, while hope sustains the belief that effort and perseverance are meaningful, even when outcomes are uncertain. These qualities are not innate to all, but they can be cultivated through reflection, habit, and deliberate practice. Each decision to act virtuously, each small moment of courage or restraint, strengthens the core of the self and reinforces the capacity to navigate future challenges with grace and clarity. Inner strength and virtue are most evident in the capacity to maintain equilibrium under pressure. Life often presents situations where emotions run high and judgment can falter. In these moments, the cultivated inner life functions as a stabilizing force. It allows the individual to pause, to consider options carefully, and to respond in a manner consistent with principles rather than impulses. This steadiness is not a sign of invulnerability, but a demonstration of mastery over the self. Strength is revealed not in the absence of difficulty, but in the ability to remain centered and purposeful amid it. Virtue and inner strength together form a shield, not of denial or rigidity, but of discernment and moral clarity that enables one to act effectively. Even when the world is chaotic, the cultivation of inner strength is also inherently empowering. When one relies solely on external validation, fortune, or circumstance, resilience is fragile, easily disrupted by forces beyond control. By contrast, when the foundation of strength resides within, it is portable, stable, and enduring. One carries it silently, independent of the applause of others or the stability of external conditions. It allows individuals to confront loss, disappointment, and injustice with dignity, because their worth and capability are not contingent on success or approval, but rooted in the disciplined and principled development of their character. This inner fortitude is a source of confidence, not arrogance, and a means of navigating life with purpose, composure, and intentionality. Moreover, the cultivation of inner strength and virtue inspires others. When an individual demonstrates moral courage, patience, and integrity, it creates a ripple effect that encourages those around them to seek similar qualities within themselves. Strength and virtue are, in this sense, contagious, not in a boastful display, but in the quiet, steady presence of a person who embodies these qualities in action and decision. Communities, workplaces, and families are strengthened when individuals cultivate resilience from within, as this inner fortitude allows one to act not only for personal endurance, but in ways that uplift and stabilize others. True leadership, therefore, often emerges not from authority or power, but from the quiet mastery of self and the principled exercise of character in the face of challenge. Finally, inner strength and virtue are inseparable from reflection and growth. They do not emerge fully formed, but are forged through repeated encounters with difficulty and the conscious effort to respond ethically and wisely. Failure, disappointment, and even moral lapse can serve as teachers if approached with humility and a commitment to improvement. Each moment of reflection, each attempt to correct course or act rightly, adds to the reservoir of inner strength, reinforcing the habit of virtue and preparing the individual for future trials. In this way, resilience is a living, evolving quality, a skill of the soul as much as a habit of the mind, shaped not by circumstances, but by deliberate cultivation and ethical attention to the self. Absolutely. Here's an 800-word expansion of the third keynote. In paragraph form, I go out, oh no, no, oh, gonna go, do. Pain in its many forms is one of the most universal and inevitable aspects of human life. It arrives without warning, often uninvited, challenging the assumptions and routines that give us comfort. To live fully is to encounter such moments of suffering, yet the manner in which one perceives and responds to pain determines whether it becomes destructive or transformative. Pain is not simply an interruption to life's narrative. It is a lens that reveals deeper truths, exposes hidden strengths, and clarifies the priorities of the soul. Those who fail to examine their suffering may find themselves overwhelmed, yet those who confront it thoughtfully discover an unexpected opportunity for growth, self-understanding, and the cultivation of resilience. Perspective on pain begins with the acknowledgement that suffering is not inherently meaningless. It is tempting to view difficult experiences as arbitrary misfortunes or as signs of personal failure, but such a perception diminishes the potential lessons embedded within them. Pain often carries insight, signaling areas where one may need to grow, where previous assumptions may require adjustment, or where hidden vulnerabilities need to be addressed. For example, emotional pain may illuminate relational patterns that are unhealthy. Physical pain may reveal neglect or overextension, and the pain of loss may force a confrontation with what truly matters. By examining suffering with careful attention, one can extract clarity, understanding, and purpose, transforming what initially appears to be purely negative into a source of wisdom. Moreover, the way one interprets pain shapes character. Repeated encounters with suffering provide the opportunity to practice patience, courage, and humility. A person who perceives hardship as a challenge to overcome with integrity and perseverance develops fortitude that would remain dormant in times of ease. Conversely, when pain is perceived solely as injustice or misfortune, it can foster resentment, bitterness, or despair. The adoption of a reflective perspective allows suffering to become a teacher, guiding decisions, actions, and moral development. In this sense, pain functions as a mirror, reflecting the qualities of the self it exposes: fear, resilience, strength, and compassion, depending on how one chooses to respond. Recognizing this dynamic transforms adversity from a random trial into an intentional encounter with personal growth. Understanding pain from a broader perspective also fosters empathy. When one reflects on one's own suffering, it becomes easier to recognize and appreciate the hidden struggles of others. Life's difficulties are not unique to a single individual. They are universal, threading through the experiences of humanity. Perspective allows one to see that pain, while personal and immediate, is part of the shared human condition. This awareness cultivates patience, compassion, and generosity toward others, encouraging supportive relationships and collaborative resilience. Suffering, when understood with perspective, ceases to be isolating and instead becomes a bridge that connects individuals through shared understanding and mutual encouragement. Furthermore, perspective on pain enables one to endure suffering without losing sight of life's broader purpose. While the intensity of hardship can make the present feel overwhelming, adopting a reflective viewpoint allows for temporal and emotional distance, making it possible to recognize that pain is often temporary or serves a larger role in the narrative of life. In enduring illness, grief, or personal failure, the mindful observer may see beyond immediate discomfort, discerning lessons, opportunities, or the development of character that will persist long after the moment has passed. This perspective transforms suffering from a purely negative experience into a vehicle for personal and spiritual refinement, empowering the individual to act with deliberation rather than react impulsively to distress. Pain also illuminates priorities and values in a profound way. When the familiar comforts of life are disrupted, what one holds most dear becomes starkly apparent. Relationships, principles, and meaningful work come into sharper focus, while superficial concerns often fade into the background. Hardship has the power to clarify what is truly essential, prompting reflection on choices, habits, and commitments. By embracing this clarifying function of pain, individuals can align their actions more intentionally with their deepest values, ensuring that life is not merely endured but approached with conscious purpose. Suffering, in this light, functions as a kind of moral and existential compass, guiding toward growth and alignment with one's authentic self. Finally, perspective on pain encourages active engagement rather than passive suffering. Pain can immobilize when viewed as purely negative or punitive, but when interpreted through a lens of growth, it motivates deliberate action. One may seek healing, support, or knowledge, or cultivate resilience through disciplined habits and reflective practice. The suffering becomes a catalyst, not a cage. It sparks effort, moral choice, and the pursuit of understanding. This approach does not diminish the intensity of the experience, but it transforms the response to it, giving the individual agency in circumstances that might otherwise feel overwhelming. Pain, properly understood, becomes an instrument for cultivating courage, wisdom, and self-mastery. Through careful reflection and deliberate interpretation, pain reveals its hidden gifts. It strengthens character, fosters empathy, clarifies values, and motivates intentional action. Suffering is not merely to be endured or lamented. It can be observed, examined, and integrated into the ongoing work of self-development. In adopting a thoughtful perspective, one transforms pain from a source of despair into a teacher, a guide, and an instrument for resilience. The lessons it offers, while often difficult and uncomfortable, are among life's most profound, shaping individuals into stronger, wiser, and more compassionate human beings. Pain, when seen with discernment, illuminates both the fragility and the remarkable strength of the human spirit, proving that hardship is not the end of the story, but a chapter in the making of a life of purpose and courage. Absolutely! Here's an 800-word expansion of the fourth keynote, Power of Hope and Faith, in paragraph form. The hope and faith are among the most potent forces within the human spirit, capable of sustaining the individual even when the external world appears bleak and uncertain. They are not mere optimism or wishful thinking. They are deliberate stances of the mind and heart that anchor a person amidst adversity. Hope is the unwavering belief that the future holds possibilities for growth, healing, and renewal, even when present circumstances suggest otherwise. Faith, closely allied with hope, is the trust in the principles, values, or truths that give life coherence and meaning, a conviction that there is a larger order or purpose beyond immediate perception. Together, they form a framework that allows individuals to endure hardship with courage, maintain focus on long-term goals, and navigate life with resilience and intentionality. The power of hope begins in the mind, with a conscious choice to envision a future beyond immediate suffering. Life is inherently uncertain, and difficulties often obscure the path forward, making it easy to succumb to despair. Yet hope serves as a beacon, a mental and emotional orientation that allows individuals to perceive opportunities and possibilities, even when obstacles loom large. It is not naive or passive, rather it is active and persistent, requiring attention, reflection, and a refusal to surrender to the weight of circumstance. By nurturing hope, one develops the capacity to endure difficulty without being consumed by it, to maintain effort and moral integrity when immediate rewards are absent, and to recognize that the trajectory of life extends beyond the trials of a single moment. Faith complements hope by providing a deeper foundation upon which resilience can rest. While hope focuses on possibilities for the future, faith is rooted in trust and conviction, belief in the enduring principles, truths, or values that guide life. It is the understanding that life is more than a series of random events, that suffering and challenge do not negate meaning, and that perseverance in the face of difficulty is itself a worthwhile endeavor. Faith allows the individual to navigate uncertainty with a sense of purpose, offering a moral and spiritual compass that informs decisions and shapes responses. When combined with hope, faith transforms adversity from a threat into a context for intentional growth, guiding action even when outcomes remain unclear. Both hope and faith cultivate resilience by stabilizing the emotional and mental life. Without them, hardship can lead to despair, anxiety, or inaction, as the mind fixates on obstacles rather than possibilities. With hope and faith, the individual can maintain focus, make prudent choices, and sustain effort over time. This stability is crucial, for life's challenges are rarely brief or isolated. Endurance often requires consistent engagement with difficulty, repeated effort in the face of setbacks, and the capacity to recover from failure. Hope and faith provide the psychological and moral energy necessary to persist, transforming challenges into opportunities to practice courage, integrity, and perseverance. Furthermore, hope and faith inspire creative and constructive responses to adversity. When a person believes that change is possible and that effort is meaningful, they are more likely to seek solutions, take initiative, and act decisively. Without these forces, one might become immobilized, viewing challenges as insurmountable and resigning to circumstances. Hope encourages the imagination to envision what could be, while faith sustains the belief that effort aligned with moral or ethical principles has enduring value. Together, they motivate action grounded in both vision and principle, enabling individuals to face challenges proactively rather than reactively. Hope and faith also nurture emotional resilience. Adversity often provokes fear, grief, or frustration, emotions that can overwhelm if left unchecked. By fostering hope, the mind and heart are oriented toward possibility rather than limitation, allowing for a more balanced and constructive engagement with emotion. Faith provides a sense of grounding, a stabilizing force that reminds the individual that suffering, though real, does not define ultimate worth or the trajectory of life. This combination permits the person to acknowledge pain and difficulty without being consumed by them, cultivating a sense of equanimity and inner peace even amid trials. The social dimension of hope and faith is equally important. Individuals who embody these qualities often become sources of strength and inspiration for others. When one demonstrates hope in the face of adversity, it encourages those around them to persist and maintain courage. Faith in enduring principles or moral truths provides a model of stability and integrity, reinforcing collective resilience in families, communities, or workplaces. Hope and faith, therefore, are not merely personal tools for endurance, they extend outward, creating networks of support, inspiration, and mutual reinforcement that amplify the capacity to withstand difficulty. Finally, the cultivation of hope and faith is a deliberate practice rather than an incidental occurrence. They are strengthened through reflection, action, and repeated commitment. Moments of challenge serve as opportunities to exercise hope by envisioning positive outcomes, and to exercise faith by trusting in guiding principles even when circumstances are unfavorable. Over time, these repeated acts of trust and forward-looking vision build a durable internal resource that is portable, stable, and accessible in times of crisis. In this way, hope and faith are both protective and generative. They shield against despair while cultivating the capacity for moral, emotional, and spiritual growth. Absolutely! Here's an 800-word expansion of the fifth keynote: action in small steps, in paragraph forms. Resilience and transformation are rarely the result of a single dramatic act. They are cultivated through small, deliberate steps taken consistently over time. Life's challenges often appear overwhelming when viewed as a whole, and the mind can be paralyzed by the scale of adversity. In such moments, the power of incremental action becomes evident. By breaking down seemingly insurmountable difficulties into manageable steps, an individual gains the ability to move forward without being consumed by fear, doubt, or frustration. Each small act of courage, integrity, or effort contributes to a larger process of growth, creating momentum that eventually leads to significant change. The key is to recognize that greatness in endurance is often a product of persistence in the ordinary, rather than isolated feats of heroism. The practice of acting in small steps begins with clarity of intention. One must identify what is within one's power to influence, distinguishing between matters that can be changed and those that are beyond control. This discernment allows the individual to focus energy effectively, avoiding wasted effort on circumstances that cannot be altered. Once priorities are identified, action can be organized into incremental steps, each with its own achievable goal. For example, in confronting personal weakness, one may not be able to eradicate it instantly, but small, repeated efforts to improve, such as practicing patience or honesty in daily interactions, gradually build competence and character. These actions, though modest in isolation, accumulate into profound change over time. Consistency is the cornerstone of incremental progress. It is not the scale of each step that matters most, but the steadfastness with which one takes them. Life's challenges often demand endurance that extends beyond fleeting inspiration or motivation, requiring a disciplined and habitual approach. By committing to regular small acts of courage, diligence, and moral choice, individuals fortify the structures of resilience within themselves. This approach reduces the overwhelming nature of adversity, as progress is measured not by immediate transformation, but by continuous, visible forward motion. Each small success reinforces confidence, strengthens resolve, and provides tangible proof that effort is meaningful, even when results are not yet fully realized. Moreover, action in small steps fosters mindfulness and presence. When challenges are daunting, the mind tends to dwell on hypothetical outcomes, potential failures, or distant goals, creating anxiety and distraction. By focusing on one step at a time, individuals maintain attention on the immediate task, engaging fully with the present moment. This engagement cultivates both skill and awareness, ensuring that actions are thoughtful rather than reactive. It also allows for flexibility, as small steps can be adjusted based on feedback and circumstance, creating an adaptive approach to adversity. Through this attentive, iterative process, incremental action becomes a powerful tool for navigating uncertainty and complexity with calm and effectiveness. Small steps also reinforce moral and ethical development. Major challenges often present opportunities to act with integrity, courage, or compassion, yet the enormity of the situation can lead to inaction. By committing to incremental moral choices, individuals exercise and strengthen these virtues in manageable ways. Each choice to speak the truth, extend kindness, or remain steadfast in principle becomes a building block of character. Over time, these repeated acts cultivate a resilient moral framework that supports larger decisions and greater challenges. The cumulative effect of consistent, small actions thus shapes not only skill and competence, but also the ethical and spiritual dimensions of the self. Furthermore, incremental action nurtures hope and motivation. Large goals or challenges can feel abstract or unreachable, but breaking them into steps allows for visible, measurable progress. Each small achievement reinforces the belief that effort is meaningful and that goals are attainable. This creates a virtuous cycle. Progress fuels hope, hope motivates further action, and sustained action generates continued progress. In this way, even the most daunting circumstances can be approached with optimism and energy as the individual experiences tangible evidence that perseverance yields results. Small steps also foster resilience in the face of setbacks. Life rarely proceeds in a straight line, and obstacles, failures, and reversals are inevitable. When progress is conceived incrementally, setbacks are less likely to induce despair, as each step is understood as part of a larger journey rather than a final judgment on ability or worth. This perspective allows individuals to recalibrate, learn from experience, and continue moving forward. Resilience, therefore, is strengthened not by avoiding failure, but by cultivating the habit of forward movement despite it. Each small step taken after a setback reaffirms capability and reinforces the mental and emotional stamina necessary for long-term endurance. Finally, the principle of small steps emphasizes patience and humility. Great achievements, personal growth, and moral fortitude are rarely instant. They are cultivated through daily attention, reflection, and consistent effort. Recognizing the power of incremental progress encourages individuals to value persistence over spectacle and effort over immediate reward. It fosters a mindset that sees progress as cumulative, a series of carefully placed stones leading toward the summit, rather than a single leap to the peak. By embracing this approach, individuals learn to honor the process of growth itself, understanding that resilience is not a fleeting moment of heroism, but the steady accumulation of mindful, purposeful action. Absolutely! Here's an 800-word expansion of the sixth keynote, endurance with purpose. In paragraph forms, endurance is not merely the capacity to survive difficulty. It is the ability to persevere with intentionality and direction, transforming challenges into opportunities for meaningful action. Life inevitably presents hardships, delays, and setbacks, yet the quality of endurance depends not solely on how long one can withstand these pressures, but on the purpose that informs persistence. Endurance without purpose can lead to mere survival, a passive existence marked by fatigue, frustration, or resignation. By contrast, endurance guided by purpose becomes an active, deliberate engagement with life, empowering the individual to navigate suffering with dignity, focus, and moral clarity. Purpose gives resilience its direction, ensuring that effort is not wasted and that trials are integrated into a coherent narrative of growth and achievement. Central to endurance with purpose is clarity of values. When an individual understands what is truly important, it becomes easier to sustain effort, even when immediate results are absent or circumstances are adverse. These values serve as a compass, directing choices and actions amidst uncertainty. For instance, the commitment to personal integrity, compassion for others, or pursuit of a meaningful goal provides the rationale for persistence, transforming repetitive or arduous tasks into opportunities to affirm and enact principles. Without such guiding values, endurance may become aimless, exhausting the mind and body without cultivating growth or satisfaction. Purpose, therefore, functions as both anchor and engine. It grounds the individual in what matters and fuels continued effort through challenges. Endurance with purpose also fosters resilience in the face of adversity by framing difficulty as a meaningful component of the journey. Life's trials are inevitable and suffering is often unavoidable. Yet when these experiences are understood as part of a larger purpose, they are no longer solely burdensome. Pain, delay, and hardship can be reframed as teachers, providing insight, sharpening skills, and strengthening character. Purpose allows one to extract lessons from experience, to see challenges as opportunities for development rather than mere obstacles. In this sense, endurance is not passive submission, but active engagement. It is the deliberate choice to confront difficulty, integrate its lessons, and move forward in alignment with one's principles and goals. A key element of purposeful endurance is the ability to maintain focus over time. Life's challenges often unfold gradually, and progress is seldom immediate. Sustaining effort over prolonged periods requires discipline, patience, and repeated reaffirmation of purpose. Individuals who endure with clarity of intention are better equipped to navigate setbacks and delays because their efforts are anchored in an understanding that meaningful outcomes emerge not from speed, but from steady, consistent action. This approach cultivates mental and emotional resilience as the individual learns to tolerate frustration, manage uncertainty, and remain committed to long-term objectives despite the fluctuations of circumstance. Endurance with purpose also strengthens moral and spiritual fortitude. When perseverance is guided by principles or higher goals, it nurtures qualities such as courage, humility, and ethical consistency. Facing hardship with intentionality challenges the individual to act rightly, even when temptation, fear, or wariness would suggest compromise. The repeated practice of moral endurance in small or large decisions builds character, reinforcing the ability to confront future adversity with integrity and grace. In this way, purpose transforms endurance into a training ground for the virtues that sustain human life, shaping not only what one achieves, but the person one becomes in the process. Furthermore, endurance with purpose promotes hope and motivation. When effort is aligned with meaningful objectives, setbacks are no longer perceived as meaningless interruptions, but as temporary obstacles along a deliberate path. Purpose provides a framework for understanding progress, offering reassurance that actions are not wasted and that each effort contributes to a larger vision. This sense of direction mitigates despair, energizes continued effort, and sustains engagement even under challenging circumstances. The individual is thus able to maintain optimism grounded in action, rather than in mere wishful thinking, and to approach life's difficulties with both realism and determination. Endurance with purpose also fosters resilience in relationships and community. Individuals who navigate challenges with clarity of intention and sustained effort often inspire and support those around them. Purposeful perseverance models reliability, integrity, and commitment, qualities that strengthen social bonds and create networks of mutual support. By demonstrating steadfastness in pursuit of meaningful goals, one contributes not only to personal growth, but to the collective resilience of family, community, or professional networks. Endurance, when guided by purpose, therefore becomes both a personal virtue and a social asset, amplifying the impact of individual effort through connection and example. Finally, endurance with purpose encourages reflection and adaptability. Purpose does not imply rigidity. Rather, it provides a guiding framework within which one can assess, adjust, and refine actions. Challenges may reveal the need for new strategies, altered approaches, or reconsidered priorities. Maintaining purpose allows for flexibility without abandoning principles, enabling individuals to respond creatively to unforeseen obstacles while preserving the integrity of their objectives. This dynamic aspect of purposeful endurance ensures that resilience is not static but evolving, continuously strengthened by reflection, learning, and deliberate adjustment.